If you're a foreigner living in Portugal or planning a move, February 2026 has a few changes you need to know about because they can affect your paperwork, your costs, and your day-to-day life here. And before we get into February, let's do a quick January recap in case you missed something important, because January wasn't a slow month. We had a cluster of updates that actually matter to foreigners: weather and infrastructure disruptions, political developments that can influence public services, and financial changes that can impact real-life expenses. So this video is a straight-to-the-point briefing. What happened in January, what it means for foreigners, and the February warnings to keep on your radar. I'll also call out what's just noise and what's actually actionable. All right, let's start with what happened in January. Let's start with the topic that dominated every coffee shop conversation on every street corner: the presidential elections on January 18th. After 10 years under President Marcelo Rebelo de Sousa, Portugal went to the polls to choose the country's next head of state. And as someone who's followed local politics for years, I saw something unprecedented: the country split. The first round results were a gut punch to the establishment. Antonio José Seguro took 31.1%, but André Ventura of the Chega party secured a massive 23.5%. Why does this matter to you, an expat or future resident? In Portugal, the president doesn't run day-to-day affairs, but they hold what we call the atomic bomb power. They can dissolve parliament and, above all, they set the moral and political tone of the nation. This surge of the populist right signals a huge push for much more restrictive immigration laws. Throughout January, we heard heated debates about ending expressions of interest and proposals for annual quotas for foreigners. The vibe on the streets has shifted. There's a sense of suspense. We've entered February in wait-and-see mode for the second-round runoff, which is happening right now on February 8th. If you're waiting on a visa, know that the public sector is effectively frozen until this result is out. No one wants to sign off on major reforms before they know who the new tenant of the Belém Palace will be. I always recommend having an extra stability fund for moments like this, because when politics gets messy, Portuguese bureaucracy gets even slower. Now, we need to talk about something that breaks my heart, but we have to be realistic. In January, Portugal was hammered by Storm Kristin. People moving here often have this image of Portugal as the land of eternal sunshine, but after 5 years here, I can tell you, the Portuguese winter can be treacherous, especially when the infrastructure doesn't play along. Kristin wasn't just a bit of rain. We had 112 miles per hour winds. In cities like Leiria and Coimbra, it looked like a flood zone. The final toll for January is tragic: 6 lives lost and millions of euros in damages until now. The government declared a state of calamity in dozens of municipalities. Here's what you need to know that some people forget or prefer not talk about. In the US, Canada, and many other countries, houses are built for the cold. In Portugal, houses are often just brick refrigerators. January 2026 saw a record spike in mold and humidity in homes. I saw several people in despair because their single-pane windows couldn't handle the pressure, and water started leaking into apartments they're paying 2,000 euros a month for. If you're house hunting this February, now is the time to be that person. Look behind the frames, check the back of built-in closets for that damp smell. The January storm exposed the wounds of the Portuguese real estate market. Luxury prices for constructions that don't insulate the cold. Let's talk paperwork. IMA, the Agency for Integration, Migration, and Asylum, finished another cycle in January, and the key word was forced digitalization. In January, the government announced they want to kill off physical lines for good by moving everything to an online portal. Sounds great, right? In theory, yes. In practice, what we saw in January were overloaded portals and a digital language barrier. Many foreigners who don't speak Portuguese yet are still getting caught by fake appointment websites and paid intermediaries promising slots. Before you pay anyone, double-check the official channels and be careful with anything that looks like a shortcut. If you want a simple step-by-step to keep you organized, I have a free relocation checklist linked below. And if you want personalized clarity for your situation, you can also book a private call. Both links are in the description. In January, it was also confirmed that family reunification processes now require the main holder to have been a resident for at least 2 years. unless you have a high-income visa or a golden visa. This was a bombshell for families who planned on moving together. Then there's the document validity issue. If your residence permit or visa expired after June 2025, the government extended its legal validity until April 15, 2026. But be careful, this only applies within Portugal. I had reports in January of people being barred at airports in Germany and France because agents there don't care about a Portuguese decree. Do not travel outside of Portugal on an expired document relying on that decree. January showed that airlines are getting stricter. Your focus in February must be immediate renewal. In my checklist, I also have a section dedicated just to document organization, so you don't get blindsided by these overnight rule changes. Let's look at the real estate numbers because I know this is the biggest weight on your budget. At the close of January, stats showed a slight correction in prices. The national average dropped to €16.10 per square meter, a 1.9% dip. Someone unaware might say, "Great! Houses are getting cheaper." Be careful. This drop isn't because landlords suddenly grew a heart. It's a technical correction because prices hit an unpayable ceiling for the average person. What we saw in January was a pullback in the luxury market and a desperate rush for the suburbs. If you already have a contract, get ready. The legal rent adjustment coefficient for 2026 is 2.24%. Landlords can apply this increase starting in February. If you pay €1,500, your rent just went up by about €34. It might seem small, but when you add it to the electricity hike, which went up about 1.5% in January due to the heating demand, the fixed cost of living in Portugal took a noticeable step up this month. Another thing I noticed in January, landlords are asking for more and more guarantees. Portuguese guarantors are back to being the #1 requirement, which is a nightmare for newcomers. If you don't have one, be prepared to offer 3 to 5 months of rent up front. Is it illegal to ask for that much? Yes. Does it happen? A lot. That's the real Portugal you need to be prepared for. Now for the boring part that actually saves you money. January was a rough month for the SNS, the National Health Service. Between doctor strikes and the surge in respiratory illnesses from the cold and damp, emergency rooms were a mess. If you're coming in February, my advice as someone who's navigated this system for years, don't rely solely on the public system. Get private health insurance. In January, the wait time for a specialist in the public system jumped to an average of 180 days in some regions. With insurance at a private hospital, you can get in the same week. It's an investment in your sanity. Oh, one more thing before we move on. If you're living abroad or still traveling in and out of Portugal, I've left a link below to a solid travel and health insurance option that a lot of expats use. It's in the description. If you're already here and have your NIF, this is the most important warning of the video. You have until February 25th to log into the Fatura's portal and validate all your 2025 invoices. So many people ignore this, and then April comes around and they realize they lost 500 or 600 euros in tax refunds because their receipts were marked as pending. Grab a coffee one afternoon this February and categorize every invoice. Health, education, housing, it all adds up. If you're new, this system seems confusing, but it's vital. Portugal started January with a new minimum wage, €920 or €1,073 if paid over 12 months. For those of you coming from the US or the UK, that sounds like a joke for a whole month of work. But here, it's the reality for a huge part of the population. This January hike creates a ripple effect you'll feel in February. The price of a cafe at the counter went up 5 or 10 cents in many places. The classic lunch special went up by about €1 in Lisbon and Porto. A decade ago, I could have a great lunch for 5 or 6 euros. Today, it's hard to find anything decent under 10 or 12 euros in the major cities, especially if you're a vegan like me. Is Portugal still cheaper than most of Western Europe? Yes, but it's not like it was in 2016, and I still like the country nonetheless. The January 2026 data shows that a single person needs at least 1,800 euros gross to live somewhat comfortably in Lisbon without sharing a room. If you're a family, that number scales fast. But look, it's not all bills and storms. Portugal has a magical way of healing itself through celebration. February brings Carnival, happening from the 13th to the 17th. And if you think Carnival is only a Brazilian thing, you're in for a surprise. The Carnival in Torres Vedras, known as the most Portuguese carnival in Portugal, is incredible political satire. It's where you'll see giant floats of the candidates who just ran in January being mocked with great humor. It's an excellent moment for you, as an expat, to step out of the foreigner bubble and see how the Portuguese actually have fun. It's a street party, it's safe, but it's cold, so wear your costume over a warm coat. Also, February is when the days start getting visibly longer. The winter sun starts coming back stronger after the storm, and the outdoor terraces start filling up again. Take a deep breath and remember why we chose this country: the safety, the pace of life, and the beauty that survives even the worst storms. As you can see, January 2026 was not for amateurs. It was a month that demanded climate resilience, political patience, and serious financial organization. Portugal is changing. It's more expensive, more complex, but also more dynamic. If you want to be part of this new phase, the secret is quality information. Recapping your February alerts. Watch the runoff election results on February 8th. It defines the future of immigration. Validate your invoices by February 25th so you don't lose money on your taxes. Check your home for leaks or dampness after Storm Kristin. Prepare for that 2.24% rent hike. If you're feeling overwhelmed, don't try to do it all alone. Download the free checklist in the link below. It's the step-by-step guide I wish I'd had when I arrived. And if your case is specific, if you have a large family, a business to move, or specific visa questions, click the link and schedule a call. If this video helped you understand what's really happening on the ground in Portugal, hit the like button and subscribe. I do this recap every month so you're never caught off guard. I'll see you in the next video, or maybe at a terrace somewhere here in Portugal. Ciao.